So in the Emerging Leader Inner Circle, one of the things we talk about is thinking on your feet, talking on your feet, and being ready for a curveball. This is one of those curveballs.
Hey, I'm fine with curveballs. Hey, how's everyone doing this morning? Doing okay? Awesome. First, I just want to say thank you to David for putting on this conference. Can we just give him a round of applause? We do an L3 one-day leadership conference. Last year was our first year, and I know how much work goes into this. And you don't do this just because it's fun or you want to say that you held a conference. You do it because you love and want to invest in people. And I know that's David's heart. I know that's why he did this, and a lot of work goes into this. So, David, just kudos for having the courage to jump out. And Kimberly, I know you were very involved as well, so thank you guys. Teresa, you were awesome. I got a new leadership role probably a year and a half ago, and I made the mistake of thinking that I can communicate, because I can communicate from a stage, that I can communicate to a team, and yep, I was wrong. So your whole piece on communication and actually explaining why decisions were made or how you came to a decision or even processing was very, very helpful. My team will thank you later. It's been a big learning curve. So I do want to start off just introducing myself and just telling you a little bit about me so we can connect. David mentioned a few things, but my life right now, I'm married to my high school sweetheart, Laura. I'll tell you about her in a second, but if you saw her, I'm a person of faith. If you didn't believe in God, I was hoping my PowerPoint would work, because if you saw my wife, you would instantly believe in God. He's been very, very good to me. And we have two beautiful girls, Sophia and Olivia. Olivia's 3.5, Sophia is 1.5. As David mentioned, I'm the Director of Development at Light of Life Rescue Mission. Just out of curiosity, how many of you have heard of Light of Life? Has anyone been to Light of Life? Does anyone donate to Light of Life? Right? So as Director of Development, I oversee all the fundraising, marketing, volunteers, and public relations for the organization. It's an $8 million organization, and I've been there for 8.5 years. Started entry level, I was the volunteer coordinator, which was the work. I don't know who hired me, but they didn't do any kind of assessment on me on the front end. Not organized at all, so that was fun. But had other gifts and talents, and so made my way up and now oversee development. And then also have a leadership organization called L3 Leadership that David talked about. We have a podcast with over 235 episodes, launched our first conference last year. We have mastermind groups that meet throughout the city, all kind of fun stuff. And that all sounds very, very impressive. I'm 34 years old, and I don't share that because it's like, look at me, but if you were to rewind my life, just 17 years ago when I was a teenager, I don't think that you would ever predict that this is where I would end up as a result of the trajectory I was on. I grew up here locally. I grew up in Bradford Woods, went to North Allegheny High School. I had a pretty normal family life growing up. We had family nights and everything like that, but in middle school, my mom got sick with a rare nerve disease in her legs. If you've ever had your feet fall asleep, she had that 24 hours a day. As a result, she ended up in a wheelchair and in bed most of her life. My dad, as a result, had to work 2 jobs just to get us by, to pay for all the medical bills. And so I went from having a normal family structure to no family structure, no boundaries, never got grounded, never had a curfew, which if you're in middle school, that's the dream, man. I was living the dream in middle school, which was great, but obviously that didn't necessarily set me up for success in life. Summer of 8th grade, started doing drugs, determined that I would never amount to anything, and stopped trying in school. I had to go to summer school every single year just to get to the next grade, and thought I was living the dream. Became a drug dealer at North Allegheny High School. My mom had these pills called Oxycontin, which is synthetic heroin, and so I learned that I could make money selling that, and so I did, and thought I was just living the dream. Until my senior year of high school, my mom ended up passing away, and again, I'm a person of faith, and through an experience with God when my mom died, God transformed my life. I ended up going to a Bible study that was led by a mom in our high school, and I saw this beautiful girl on the couch, and I said, hey, I can go to Bible study every week. It sounds pretty good. I walked away from that night of Bible study, and I told my high school friends, I said, fellas, I met my wife, I met the girl of my dreams, I met the girl I'm going to marry, and just a spoiler alert, I did marry the girl. I just want to let you know, I called my shot on the first night I met my wife. So pretty awesome. What I didn't know, at least at the time, when my wife left that night, her mom led the Bible study, and she had a conversation with her mom, and she said, I can't believe Doug came to Bible study tonight. That's one of the most influential kids in our high school, but he uses all of his influence for drugs and alcohol. If he ever got a hold of God, or in other words, started being intentional and purposeful with his life, he could change the world. For whatever reason, her mom felt compelled to start bringing me over for family dinners. Her dad is the director of admission at Carnegie Mellon, and he became a father figure in my life. And he was the first person to say, you're going to do something, you're going to go to college, which I wasn't planning on, and you're a leader. You need to dream big and go for it, and let's go, and change my life. They ended up bringing me to a church that I ended up attending and interning at, where I met a youth pastor there who became a second father figure in my life. And he was the first person to really pour leadership into me and give me a passion for leadership. He gave me a John Maxwell CD. Any John Maxwell fans here?
Oh, yeah.
I guess if you know David, you have to be. Well, he gave me a John Maxwell CD. I didn't know what it was. He's like, listen to this. And I didn't know there was such thing as personal development. And I just put the CD in and I started listening. And I felt like, if you've seen The Matrix, I felt like I was plugged in and Neo, like I was Neo. And I'm like, this is the greatest thing I've ever heard. I started transcribing the lesson word by word. And I called Larry and I said, give me everything you got. I want every CD. And he gave me binders full of Maxwell CDs. And literally for 5 years, 2 or 3 hours a night, I would listen to John Maxwell CDs and just grow and develop, and it transformed my life. And, you know, the rest of the story is I just continued to grow and develop. Got the girl. It took me 10 years, even though I called my shot. I had a lot of growing up to do, a lot. Like, you have no idea. Chris Camp knows a little bit, but a lot. But I grew up and I got her. I won in the end, and I shared where I was today. I'll just share this as a side story. I was going to share it later, but I got so passionate about leadership development. And for a long time, I still hung out with all the kids I was getting drunk and high with all the time. And I used to have parties at my house. My mom wasn't around and my dad was working. And I was having a party one night and I thought, man, I'm trying to get out of this whole drug scene. Maybe I can help transform my friend's life too. So I borrowed the 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership on DVD with John Maxwell. And I said, fellas, we're having a party tonight. Didn't tell them anything. So they all come over. They're like ready to get high, ready to get drunk. And I said, guys, I got something better. And you know, they're all like, what do you got? I said, we have the 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership on DVD. And they said, what? I gave them all handouts and fill-ins. I put it in, and they all, I mean, they swore, they're like, are you effing kidding me? And they all left, and they're lost, right? I just sat there and took notes. So anyway, that's a little bit about my journey. I just wanted you to know me before I share any principles. David told me this was an emerging leader conference, and so I didn't expect anyone here to be over 30, and it looks like that's the audience we have. So you all missed that. I'm so bad. Let's just dive into this. What I did want to share, and I'll make this relevant, is anytime I get to share with emerging leaders, and just out of curiosity, how many would identify yourself as an emerging leader? Maybe you don't have a leadership role, maybe you're just starting out, maybe you feel like you're a mid-level leader. How many of you guys are a senior leader? You've been leading for a while? A lot of you. Any entrepreneurs in the room? You own and run your own company? And any executive leaders in the room? Okay. Well, my hope is to add value today, and the premise of this lesson is if I could go back and have coffee with my 20-year-old self, but today I'll say, David told me the average age here today is 38. So if I could have coffee with myself in 4 years, this is what I would tell myself. But let's dive into this. And I just want to share a bunch of actionable things that I hope this adds value to your life. But if I could sit down with myself, the first thing that I would tell me, and a lot of this, some of it's leadership related, but it's life related. And I've learned this, that life requires leadership, right? If you want a great life, it's going to require you to lead your life. And I believe John Cotter said most people don't lead their lives, they accept them. And isn't that true? And if you want to live a life of significance, you have to build a great life. Not just a great leadership position in an organization, you have to build a great life. Because if I've learned anything in the past year and a half of being in this new role, when you're in a leadership position, you're in the arena. And it is tough. It is not easy. It's not fun. Leadership sucks a lot of the time. A lot of sleepless nights. A lot of pressure. And God forbid if anything happens outside of your life, right, outside of your work life, how do you handle all of that? And if you don't build a solid foundation for your life, you're going to fall apart and crumble. You're going to make decisions you wish you never made. You're going to find yourself in places you wish you never were, right? And so the first thing that I would tell you, or tell myself, is you need to wake up to the reality that this is the one and only life that you get. Wake up to the reality that this is the one and only life that you get. Here's a thought. You're going to die one day. You're going to die. Right? You're going to die. I unfortunately, had to learn this the hard way. Fortunate and unfortunate. I was 17 years old when my mom died. My mom was 55 years old. I didn't tell you this part of the story, but 2 years after I met my mother-in-law, she developed cancer and she passed away. She was 47 years old. This is real relevant, and I'll just be open and vulnerable. My sister, I have a sister, and we both did drugs together in high school, and my life turned around when my mom died, started following God. My life started going this way. My sister kept going down the same path. Unfortunately, my sister became a heroin addict, and this is real. My sister overdosed last Thursday and lost her life, buried her Tuesday, right? But man, this is leadership. You have to show up. Here I am, right? This is real life, and life is really short. You know, my sister was 32. If I only get to live as long as my mother-in-law lived, I get 13 more years, right? If I live as long as my mom, whatever the math is, 21 more years. But this life is short. And so many of us think we're going to live forever. But are you living with purpose? Maury Schwartz, if you've never read Tuesdays with Maury, it's a great book. He said this, he said, everybody knows they're going to die, but nobody believes it. If we did, we would do things differently. Someone else once said this, I love this. He said, first I was dying to finish high school and start college. And then I was dying to finish college and start working. And then I was dying to marry and have children. And then I was dying for my children to grow old enough for school so I could go back to work. And then I was dying to retire. And now I am dying. And suddenly I realized I forgot to live. I forgot to live. And sadly, I'm 34, I see this happening all the time. Just people just accepting their lives and not being intentional. What if I told you could set up your life in a way that you could wish, you wouldn't have to wish you could do it all over again? I love what Mae West said. This is one of my favorite quotes. She said, you only live once, but if you do it right, once is enough. You only live once, but if you do it right, once is enough. And so what I would encourage you to do if you want to live an intentional life is first you need to create a life plan. If you've never done this, there's a phenomenal resource. It's a book by Michael Hyatt and Daniel Harkavy. It's called Living Forward. The book's actually kind of fluffy, but the process they give you for creating a life plan will change your life. And I'd encourage you to take a 2-day retreat. If you have a significant other or a spouse, I encourage you to do it with them. And all you do is get away. This may sound a little morbid, but you may actually want to go to a cemetery to do it, right? That'll cause you to reflect a little bit. But you take each category of your life, right? Family, physical, financial, career, and you say, hey, at the end of my life, what do I want someone to say about this category of my life in my funeral? What do I want to be able to say that I did with my finances? What do I want to be able to say about how I treated my family, about my marriage, etc.? And then you just start planning backwards. And every year you review your life plan, say, is this still what I'm aiming at? And then you break that down and say, okay, what are the steps I need to do to take this year to get there? And that's how you set your annual goals. In the area of your finances, what do I need to do so long term I'm going to hit that target? And then you break down your annual goals into monthly goals, and then write weekly goals, and then you start to break it down into your daily to-do list. But if you have never done that, I encourage you to create a life plan. Wake up to the reality that this is the one and only life that you get. The second thing I would tell you, if I could sit down with you for coffee, is to dream big and go for it. But don't just dream big and go for it. Determine to figure out and pay the price that it costs to actually go for it. And listen, a lot of us stop dreaming as we get older. Life gets in the way, we have kids, life gets busy. But I guarantee there's dreams that are lying dormant in your heart that you are just afraid to go after. One of my favorite stories, it's actually John Maxwell, that really challenged me in this when I was young. He was speaking at a conference, thousands of people, and he said this young leader came up to him in the middle of the intermission and said, John, I want to do what you do. And John said, well, what do you mean? He said, well, I want to do what you do. This is a really sweet gig. People paid hundreds of dollars for you to be here. You get to sit up here, make people laugh, suck on a cough drop. I want to do what you do. And John smiled and he thought, maybe this is a moment for some teaching. So John looks at the young man and he said, young man, I understand that you want to do what I do. Trust me, I do. But the question isn't, do you want to do what I do? The question is, do you want to do what I did so you can do what I do? Right? And oftentimes we have dreams, and we love the dream, but we never ask about the price. And so I want to challenge you, if you have a big dream, figure out the price. Here's my progression of a dream. First, you have the dream. And let me just tell you this, it doesn't take much to have a dream. Right? Go to bed and you have one. Or take a shower. But have a dream. Number two, figure out what the price is. And if you don't know what the price is, ask somebody who's accomplished your dream. I promise you, something that's in your heart someone else has done, or someone else has done something similar. Figure out what the price is that they pay to get there. And then number three, very, very simple, determine whether or not you'll pay that price. Determine whether or not you'll pay the price. Small dreams have small prices, big dreams have big prices. And I encourage you to go all in and pay the price regardless of what it takes. I love what John Maxwell said. He said, people who idolize the privileges of leadership often fail to notice the sacrifices involved. And I know that was me, right? I mean, John changed my life when I was 17. I would have asked him the same question. I would have been that kid coming up to him in the intermission. But as I've grown up, it's like, yeah, leadership isn't sitting on a stage, sucking on a cough drop, talking to people. It's brutal, right? It's day to day. The leadership sucks, right? That's John said that's going to be his last book. But it does. Dream big and go for it, and determine to pay the price. The third thing I tell you to do, and it seems like most of you already are doing this, is to get on a plan for personal growth. Here's what I know about growth, and I figured out in 17 years of growing. Growth equals happiness. Growth equals happiness. If you want to be happy for the rest of your life, grow. If you want to be happy in an area of your life, grow. You show me a growing marriage, I'll show you a happy marriage. You show me a growing company, I'll show you a happy company. You show me a growing person, I'll show you a happy person. And here's what I know about growth. Growth is often difficult, but if you grow over time, life gets easier. When you don't grow, it's not difficult, but over time, life gets harder. Grow, life gets easier. Don't grow, life's going to get harder. It's just a fact. So make the decision to grow. So be intentional. Like I told you guys about kind of my leadership development journey, getting on the John Maxwell kick with all the CDs. But here's what I would just ask you. You guys are at a conference, so somewhat this lesson's already under your belt. But what are you doing on a daily basis to grow and develop? Do you actually have a personal growth plan? What podcasts are you listening to? And people always ask what I'm listening to. One that I'm enjoying lately is Dan Sullivan, if you've never heard of him. He's out of Toronto. He owns a company called Strategic Coach. The guy's resources and podcasts are phenomenal. Like, really, really, really practical. Dan Sullivan, Strategic Coach. He has these free PDFs, just random. They're PDFs on his website. Download them all and read them. They'll change your life. What books are you reading? Two that came to mind over the past year for me. There's a international leadership development company here in Pittsburgh called DDI, and their CEO, her name is Casey Byam. She wrote a book called Your First Leadership Job. It's fantastic. If you're an emerging leader and you've never led people, it's been the best book I've read practically of what day-to-day leadership looks like in the workplace. And if you're dealing with the weight of leadership, there's a great book that I read this year, because I dealt with that this year, and it's called Leadership Pain by Samuel Chan. And if you ever think you have a lot of pressure on you, you'll read stories of leaders who've had a lot more, and it'll make you feel a lot better that you're not alone. What conferences are you going to? You're coming to this one, come to L3 one day, put conferences on your calendar next year. What leaders are you spending time with? I'll give you a process for that in a minute. And who's sharpening you? I'll talk about that as well. And just recognize that consistency compounds over time. Right? Growth will compound over time. My favorite quote ever is by my high school football coach, and his name was Jim Rankin in North Allegheny. He was kind of a crazy guy. Unless you're related to him, then he's awesome. But he always said, day-to-day intensity, week-to-week consistency builds champions. Day-to-day intensity, week-to-week consistency builds champions. I don't know of a more motivating quote than that. And lastly, I'll just say about growth. If you're in an organization that will invest in your growth, there's nothing more valuable. I worked in an organization, I don't know, probably for 10 years, only like 4 as a staff member. I got paid $10 an hour, but they probably invested thousands of dollars into my growth and development. I felt like I was getting paid to grow. And sometimes in your journey, you may want to work for free because of the opportunity to learn from a leader that you can be around from that opportunity. So, and if you're here and your company paid for you to be here, thank your boss. And don't just thank him, write him a note and tell him or her everything that you learned at the conference and how it added value to you and how you're going to change in your position as a result. Don't just take it for granted. Not every company does that. Number 4, this will probably be the most actionable one. Develop a network of mentors by adding value to them. Develop a network of mentors. I mentioned, and David mentioned, I have a podcast, 235 episodes. I didn't start a podcast because I thought it would be cool, or it was a cool thing to do. I actually, that youth pastor that was in my life, he would bring leaders from our community in to speak to us as interns, just like this. And he would say, listen, if I bring a speaker in and you connect with them, ask them out to coffee. Ask them to mentor you. And he gave us this whole process, which I'll share with you. And so I started doing that. I started meeting with leaders once a month, ask them questions, learn from them, ask them to mentor me. And after about 10 years of doing that, my peers started saying, wow, you got to spend time with David Glennon and Chris Camp. Like, I wish I could, and you all should. They're both here and awesome. I wish I could. I'm like, have you ever asked? And 99% of people have never asked. And so I thought, well, if they're not going to ask, what if I recorded my conversations with leaders and just made that available for people to listen to? Thus, the podcast was born, and it's led to all kind of awesome connections that you heard about. But how do you get connections with meaning? Here's my process. Get a pen out, because this will be the most actionable thing. But my process is this. One, I create an ongoing bucket list of leaders that I'd like to connect with. John Maxwell is number one, and I'm having lunch with him in January. Don't tell anyone, I'm super excited. Anyway, I don't know, but I'm pumped. After that, there's no bucket list. I can just go to heaven, right? I'm done. But create an ongoing list, literally, and dream big. I never thought I'd get to meet with John Maxwell, but you never know who you'll get to meet with. Anyway, I don't want to preach. Ask them for 30 minutes of their time. Ask them for 30 minutes of their time. If you do, I encourage you to say, hey, I will only take 30 minutes. I'll send you a list of questions ahead of time. And here's the thing that probably set me apart, at least initially. Now it's probably annoying to people, but give them a unique business proposition and a reason to meet with you. For me, it was the podcast. So when my network really started to expand, it was because I had a podcast. So now if I wanted to have a meeting with Chris Camp, I'm not just going to say, Chris, can I meet with you for coffee? Because leaders get that all the time. But if I say, Chris, I want to meet you for coffee, I'm going to send you a list of questions in advance so you know I have an agenda and what I want to get to. And, oh, by the way, if you're okay with it, I would love to record our conversation and put it on my podcast, so it won't only benefit me when we meet coffee, but it will benefit all these other leaders that we influence through our podcast. If you do that, now the podcast isn't getting really big. I don't know if it'll have the same impact, but I just encourage you to start where you are. My first podcast interview was with my father-in-law, and one thing led to another. And anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself in the process. But be intentional. Give them a unique proposition. If they say yes, study them and create questions. I have a list of about 20 questions that I ask every leader. But when I get a yes, I usually spend an hour or two researching them. I'll read articles about them. I'll listen to podcasts that they were on. And I'll just try to create my own unique set of questions based on that specific leader. And then I send them those questions. If you're meeting in person, be early for your meeting. This is a simple principle, but to be early is to be on time. To be on time is to be late, and to be late is to be left. Great principle. Bring them, or this is game changer. Bring them something that they like or that they love. Find out something they like and bring it to them. I got this actually principle from the woman that created Aflac Duck. I don't remember her name, but she had an interview with Warren Buffett, which is impressive in itself. Warren Buffett had never given anyone more than 15 minutes of his time. Well, in her research, she found out that Warren Buffett loves Diet Cherry Coke. And so before her interview, she bought a cooler, she bought some ice, she bought a Diet Cherry Coke for $1.39 in a glass bottle, put it in the cooler, walks into Warren Buffett's office, sits down, and says, Mr. Buffett, I know you love Diet Cherry Coke. I brought you one because I thought we could start the interview with something you like. Warren Buffett looks at her and he said, young woman, in all my years of doing interviews, no one's ever brought me a Diet Cherry Coke. You can have as much time as you want. Gave her an hour and a half. Warren Buffett, right? Not bad for spending, $2 on a Diet Cherry Coke and some ice. Pretty awesome. But email their executive assistant if they have one. Find out if you know someone that knows them. It doesn't have to be significant. It could be a $5 gift card to Starbucks. But again, it's going to set you apart and cause them to remember you. Shake their hand. I always say this is a sales thing, but have an upfront contract. Just reiterate, hey, sir, ma'am, you said that you had 30 minutes. Are you still good for 30 minutes? And these are the questions I'm going to go through. Is that so good? It's just respectful that you respect their time. Bring a notebook and take notes. It drives me crazy when people don't take notes. So I see all the pens moving except for Chris Camp. No, I'm just joking. He's taking notes on his phone. Yeah. But take notes. It shows that you value what they're saying. And then ask them at the end, always ask this question, who do you know that I should know? Or are there any leaders that come to mind that I could connect with? That single question alone has led me to some incredible connections, and more often than not, if you respect their time on the front end, they'll respect you by opening up doors for you that you can never open up for yourself. Who do you know that I should know? After you're done with the meeting, send them a thank you note. I said this earlier, but with the lessons that you learned. So Chris, thanks for coffee. Here's the 5 things that you said to me that I thought were unbelievable. Thank you so much for your time. I'll send you all the podcast stuff when it's up. And then if you want to meet with them again, This will set you apart. One, don't meet with them again until you did what they told you to do, right? If you ask them for advice, if you didn't try it, don't ask them for another meeting. But if you do ask for another meeting, say, hey, sir, man, we met 3 months ago. Here's what you told me to do in our meeting. Here's the advice you gave me. Here's what I did. Can we meet again? If you do that for a leader, no one's going to say no to you. Because why? Nobody does that. Nobody does that. Most people just want to meet with leaders so they can say they did it and they think they're cool. Actually execute on what they asked you to do. Was that helpful? It'll get you a meeting with pretty much anyone. Number 5, very, very simple, but be willing to do what others won't do. Be willing to do what others won't do. And this never ends, right? You could be a senior leader and you have to report to your board. You just have to set yourself apart. There was a sign on a grocery store that I love. It said 57 rules of success. Number 1, deliver the goods. Number 2, the other 56 don't matter. Right? If you want to grow an emerging leader, just deliver the goods. Don't give excuses. Don't make up stuff. Just deliver the goods. I love this, and again, John Maxwell has been such an influence, but Mark Cole, well, 2 things. John talked about his nephew came to him when he started off in a job, and he said, John, I want to set myself apart. What do I need to do? And John said, well, I don't remember the guy's name. He'll just say, Doug, what time do people start at your company? And he said, most people get there between 8 and 8:30. And John looked at him and said, not you. Not you. You get there at 7:30, and you start working before everyone else. He said, when do most people leave? He said, 5:30. He said, not you. You stay till 6. And again, just a little bit of extra, he said, will start to set you apart. And come in with a servant's mentality. Mark Cole is John Maxwell's CEO. He started in the stock room, just selling, making phone calls, right? And now he's the CEO of 7 companies for John Maxwell. And he said, and he encourages young leaders to do this, when you get a new leadership role, or if you're in one, meet with the leader of your company, even if you're at the entry level, and just say, sir, ma'am, I know you don't know me. I know you don't think I add any value to the organization yet, but I just want you to know that I'm here to serve you. And here's my personal cell phone number. I don't care what it is or what time it is. If you need me to do anything for you, I am here to serve you. If you want me to go get your dry cleaning, if you want me to go get your car washed, I am just here to serve. Leaders are looking for people like that. Find ways to set yourself apart. Be willing to do what others won't do. Number 6, get in a mastermind group. Get in a mastermind group. Mastermind groups originated with the book Think and Grow Rich, at least as far as I know. And if you don't know what that is, it sounds like a lot of you because of David. But Napoleon Hill was hired by Andrew Carnegie to study the top 50 most wealthiest and influential people or leaders of that day for 25 years. That's a long time to study people. And he wrote the book Think and Grow Rich as a result of what he learned. One of the principles that was pretty much in everyone's life is everyone was in what he called a mastermind alliance, which was a group of 1 or 2 or more people that met on a consistent basis to challenge each other, to support each other, and help each other grow through their goals. So when I heard about this, I said, I want to do this. I want to create a group that I would want to be in. I joined a lot of groups that I didn't want to be in, that I thought were going to be good, that weren't good. And so we started doing mastermind groups at L3. I've been in my mastermind group now for 4 years, and it's been the single greatest source of growth for me in my life, and I do a lot to grow. And so what mastermind groups look like, at least the way we do them, is they're intentional groups that meet every 2 weeks, twice a month. We think once a month is too little to really build community, but 4 times a month is a little too much. Everyone in our mastermind group shares their top 10 goals for the year in the beginning of the year. So everyone's learning what's in everyone else's heart. And your goal becomes not only to achieve your goals, but to help everyone else achieve their goals. Mutual accountability. Everyone shares wins and soul checks. Now, this is actually something that I brought into Light of Life as an organization. But every single meeting I do this, whether it's our team meeting, our executive meetings, our one-on-ones, we share wins. Hey, what can we celebrate? Teresa talked about too often we don't celebrate the good that people do. What if every meeting you started off with celebrations with your team? Hey, what business wins can we celebrate? What can we celebrate about what so-and-so did? And then what we call them soul checks. Sometimes in corporate world, I have friends that call them gut checks. But we always ask, how are you doing on a scale of 1 to 10, and why? Right? 1 being, life's really, really bad, and yeah. Or, hey, 10, life's better than it's ever been. And that allows people to not just say, hey, I'm doing good, or I'm doing okay. And it's a little awkward at first, but I'm telling you, it creates conversations. And all of a sudden, if someone's a 6 or below, it's like, well, why? And it may be personal, it may be business, but it allows you to build intimate relationship with them and go there. And hey, maybe we need, Light of Life's a faith-based organization. For us, if someone's lower than them, going through a hard time, hey, can we pray for you? You want to talk about emotional intelligence and building trust with your team? What if you actually cared about their personal life instead of just what they're doing for your company, right? Just a thought. So wins, soul checks. Then we have someone or multiple people on a hot seat. A hot seat is just when you have an opportunity to troubleshoot a goal or a problem that you're having. So, hey, I want to start an organization, have no idea how, don't know how to do accounting, don't know how to set up an LLC, help me. And then all of a sudden you have 10 to 12 other people, you have all of their experience, all of their connections, etc., that can pour into you, and hopefully you walk away with a game plan to help achieve your goal. We hold each other accountable, have social events, and then we do a gratitude dinner once a year as well. And we go through some leadership curriculum. One of my favorite stories about mastermind groups, any Star Wars fans here? Anyone excited for the rise of Skywalker? Come on. And I'm behind. I have not seen Baby Yoda other than on Facebook. Is anyone watching this? Is that a real thing? Like, is Baby Yoda for real? Does he fight? Well, I'm just curious. Anyway, I have to watch Baby Yoda. But George Lucas, he wouldn't have called it a mastermind group, but I watched a documentary, it's on HBO, of Steven Spielberg. And basically him, George Lucas, and two other producers, I forget who they were, they met every single week to talk about directing and making films. And George Lucas, before A New Hope Episode 4 came out, the first Star Wars film, he showed everyone in what I'll call a mastermind group, Episode 4. One of the guys watching, he said, hey, this is great, but like when you start off, you have absolutely no context for what's happening. Like, I have no idea. You should do something, some kind of text in the beginning to tell people what's happening. And then all of a sudden, right, the epic beginning that's now like a legacy Star Wars film. All because of we would not have that today if it weren't for a mastermind group. So if you don't have a group like that you meet with consistently, you're missing a huge opportunity for growth. And that's not something you have to do outside of work. I actually know, I have a friend named Jason Wolf. He started the company giftcards.com. He sold it for a lot of money. Now he's doing Giftya. But he creates small groups within his organization that are cross-departmental. So it gets people interacting and sharing their goals within the organization. He said it's been a game changer for him. So you may want to think about doing that. I have 7 minutes left. Let's see what else I can give you. I always give way more content than I should. All right, I'll just go into character. I would tell my younger self this, and I would tell everyone in this room this, that you need to become what you want to attract. Character development is the most important development. Character development is the most important development. You must become what you want to attract. Because in life, it's an absolute fact that you attract who you are, not what you want. You will attract a spouse based on who you are, not what you want. So if you don't like your spouse, guess who's to blame? I mean, I'm just joking. That's terrible. I shouldn't have said that out loud. But you attract who you are, not what you want. You know why it took me 10 years to marry my wife? Because and whenever I met her, I was nowhere near the person I needed to become to attract her. I was madly in love with her at first, and she just looked at me and said, you're just a ball of potential. Undeveloped potential, right? It took me 10 years to grow into the man that required my wife to say yes to me and required her dad to say yes, that I could actually marry her. It's going to be the same thing in your leadership. You're going to attract who you are, not what you want. Long before people follow you, hire you, promote you, elect you, etc., they're watching you. I love Teresa's example of promoting young leaders, and she used the example of Doug, not referring to me, but she said, hey, what if we put him up there and he's been watching me for 2 years live out emotional intelligence day to day. You're gonna learn much more from watching people than you ever will hearing in a speech like this. It's the day-to-day interaction. But people are watching you, whether or not you know it. People are talking about you in executive rooms, right? Before you get a promotion, there's boardrooms where board members and executives are saying, is this the right person? And they're looking at your character, they're looking at your work ethic, they're looking at everything. Character development matters. So how do you develop character? Let others speak into your life. Let others speak into your life. I heard someone mentioning this earlier. My favorite story, I know a pastor that got to mentor Deion Sanders. If you don't know Deion Sanders, phenomenal athlete. I think he played baseball and football. And he was going through a hard time, and the pastor met with him and he said, Deion, your whole life, you've had it all. You've had the athletics, you've had the looks, you've had money. Who do you have in your life that can tell you no that you'll actually listen to? Who do you have in your life that can tell you no that you'll actually listen to? He couldn't name one person. And don't just say, well, shame on you. Do you have a person? Could you answer that question? Who do you have in your life? And if you're a leader of a company, you really need that. Because the higher up you go in the organization, the less likely people are to tell you the truth. The less likely the people are to tell you no. And that's unfortunate. I wish that wasn't the case, but it's just reality. And so who do you have in your life that can tell you no that you'll actually listen to? I had the privilege of interviewing Clint Hurdle. I'm a huge Clint Hurdle fan, super bummed he's no longer the manager. But he just talked about, man, just being truthful with people. And I just thought it was so interesting. He's like, when minor leaders come up to me and they want to meet with me, I say, listen, you're not a major league player yet. Yet. You have to grow a little bit. And then he goes, then they get promoted and they come to the major and says, that's great, you made it here. But now you've got to do what it takes to stay here. Right? That's not something you want to hear. You want to hear, congratulations, you're going to be a major league all-star. But we need people that can tell us the truth. The higher you go, the more coaches you'll need, and the more coaches you need to have. I absolutely believe that. And then have standards that are above others. As a leader, you're an example whether you want to be or not. And you no longer get to just think about you. In fact, my favorite leadership quote is, leadership is losing the right to think about yourself. I have 2 baby girls, and people always say, man, did you, and again, I'm a person of faith, but they said, when you had kids, did you learn how much God loves you? And I said, nope. You want to know what I learned? I learned how selfish I was. Anybody else, it's like, man, I thought I was a selfless person. But I would say the exact same thing about leadership, right? I thought I was a selfless person. I thought I loved to serve others until everyone else took up all my time and I had no time to do anything. What the heck, right? But that's leadership. It's no longer about me performing and me doing things. It's about me adding value to people and serving people every single day and lifting them and promoting them. That is what leadership is all about. Losing the right to think about yourself and lifting others. I think I'll just close by just telling you this. The last thing I would tell myself is just don't quit. Don't quit. I said I have a list of questions that I ask every leader, and one question that I always ask is, what do you want your legacy to be? And one of my favorite answers is a leader locally named Jeff Leake. And I believe he said that legacy isn't necessarily defined by what we do, but by what we set into motion. Your legacy is not going to be what you do, but what you set into motion. And here's what I know. If you'll truly take this leadership development journey seriously and you won't quit, you have no idea what you will set into motion. You have no idea the lives that will be impacted. David, I was texting David this morning. I was so excited. I think there's 60 plus people here. And I was texting him, do you know that John Maxwell had 14 people at his first leadership conference? So David's already ahead of John, right? He's on his way. But don't despise the day of small beginnings, and don't let little things upset you and stop you on your journey. We overestimate what we can do in a year, but we underestimate what we can do in 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years down the road. But we're too impatient. Please don't quit. I think about L3 leadership. It was funny, when I first started L3 leadership, it was like, I'm so excited for everyone to reach their business goals and help people grow and develop. But what I found out is most people just wanted a group of people to do life with. And what I thought was going to be a lot of business success and accomplishments has actually turned out to be a lot of personal accomplishments. Marriages that have been restored because leaders figured out they were spending too much time at work and needed to learn how to lead at home. We've had babies be adopted because of connections that were made in L3 leadership. Those are lives that are never going to be the same. What if I quit? And what if I quit now? That might be a baby that doesn't get adopted. That might be a marriage that fails. And that's personal, but life, you can't separate life and leadership. You are a leader, your life matters, and I hope that in the few lessons that I shared today, I help set a foundation for building a great life so you can lead at home and you can lead at work and be a successful leader everywhere you go. Thank you for your time. Love you guys. David, I'm so proud of you. Keep going, man.